is literally full flow here, guys, full flow. And I don't really know if it gets deeper. Sometimes they can be really big holes because there's a lot of flow here. Alright, what is going on, guys? Welcome yet again to another episode of MGC. You join me today, of course, in my Land Cruiser Cygnus, for those of you watching in the US, LX470. And you join me on a rainy day in Nairobi, very rainy day. It is about November, we're in our short rains. And I wanted to take you guys through why Land Cruisers are just so popular in Nairobi or in Kenya. Why is it that every second, third car vehicle you see is a Prado or a Land Cruiser or a 200 or a 300 or an 80 series or a 70 series Prado? Why are there so many Toyota 4x4s? Well, I'm about to get into it right now and show you why exactly in this weather Land Cruisers are so popular in Kenya. We don't have the easiest of roads. Let me take you through it, guys. That you're going to see in this video, Nairobi is not the best of roads ever. Now you guys got to remember that Nairobi actually sits quite high up in altitude. We're not at sea level. Some of you guys living at 0 meters. We are actually at about 2,500 meters, I believe, above sea level. So that's why you guys see the Kenyan runners, you guys see that we're so good at running, jogging. It's because we got more red blood cells, guys. It's because we live at higher altitude. So the body has to make more red blood cells so you can store that oxygen in the hemoglobin so that you can survive. And so our cardiovascular system is actually being worked a bit harder when you live high up here. Now, living high up here, you do get some torrential rainfall, and El Nino really battered us. So most of the time our roads are like slipping away. They keep getting carpeted with tarmac and they keep getting washed away by these heavy rains, guys. And so you end up finding out that most of the time you're driving through puddles, you're driving through potholes, you're driving through really bad roads. Now, I am someone who loves saloon cars, guys. Some of you watching may be thinking, why does this guy have two Land Cruisers? Who needs really two Land Cruisers? Why not just get a Land Cruiser and maybe one saloon car? Well, I must admit, guys, I am someone who loves saloon cars. I love myself Mercedes-Benz. I love myself a C-Class and E-Class. And I look at these cars on a daily basis. I look at listings. I look at old Mercedes-Benz and it just tickles my fancy and I really want to get one. But every time it rains and every time I go through the off-road stuff that I go through with my Cygnus or my 80 series, it just reminds me time and time again of how hard it is to own a smaller car that is lower to the ground in a country like Kenya, guys. It is really tough because of the big potholes and the rough roads. So we want to find out why are Land Cruisers so popular. Well, they're so popular here, guys, because you really need a reliable vehicle and you really need a tough vehicle in Kenya, because you're going through all sorts of crazy roads, all sorts of rough roads, and most of the time the roads have been washed away. And I've seen countless times where saloon cars or smaller cars are just sitting on the side of the road. They've gone into a gutter, they've gone into a big hole, and they've bottomed out. And it's just like, this is what you expect with these kind of vehicles, and it is just rough. You're gonna have a hard time. I did have a Mercedes W202 manual shift, and I just remember, and that car wasn't even that low to the ground, guys, but I just remember how hard it was and how sometimes the anxiety I had when I would be driving that Benz in rainy weather of Nairobi. It is scary because you don't know what has been filled up with water, if it's a big pothole, if it's a big trench. And these lower cars, they really suffer, guys. And I've seen a lot of the lower cars, the E-classes, the C-classes, with a lot of damaged components underneath the vehicle. You know, you see these vehicles driving and you see that there's like things hanging from underneath on the undercarriage because they've just slammed into things, slammed into mud, slammed into all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not saying you can't drive a small car in this country, guys, but what I'm saying is that there's a reason there's so many Land Cruisers on the road, and there's a reason I have 2 Land Cruisers. Is because the mentality is also that you get the smaller car, yes, you can enjoy the fuel economy, you can enjoy, you know, being lower to the ground, better handling, but also at the end of the day it's really anxiety driven because we don't have a country where you have much highway maintenance or someone is going to come and make the road quickly. You know, the footage you see on this video is roads that have just been washed away and you know, not been tarmacked again. They've just been sort of left out to dry, and it's really tough when, you know, this is the state of things. But we're in a developing country, so it's not always perfect. Some of you guys in developed nations, I know your roads get fixed up quickly and stuff, but here in Africa, Kenya, things are tough. And so that's why you know, you kind of get a vehicle that you feel is apocalypse ready, you know, because you know that when you get out of your home every day, it's the wild west. You know, anything can happen. It's Africa and it's just insane. I should say wild east, since we're in East Africa. But so that's some of the reasons why these Land Cruisers work so well, guys. Toyota makes them really durable. They can take you out on trails 4x4, and when you hit those potholes or when you go through those deep waters, you know, these vehicles can take that wading depth. You know, they can survive that water level. You know, they were built for this, versus the other vehicles that you take in deep waters and you have all sorts of electrical issues, you know, especially the saloon cars, Mercedes E-Class. A lot of people just love these vehicles and drive them in Kenya, but when you actually see the kind of damages you cause because of how bad our roads are, you realize that these manufacturers didn't make these vehicles specifically for Africa. I've got to say, the older Benzes like the W123 back in the day, the 126 S-Class, Mercedes were building some really strong vehicles back then. Even the Peugeots, those cars were strong saloon cars. They were built like SUVs, honestly. They were really tough and they could take on Africa roads. But these days, I must admit that a lot of manufacturers and a lot of, especially the European, German cars, are too soft, and they're not strong enough, built strong enough to withstand the kind of conditions we have here. And that's when it starts to become really tough, because you buy a beautiful saloon car, you spend your hard-earned money, and every day you're going through rough roads and damaging it and throwing parts of the vehicle because things are going wrong. It doesn't leave you with the best feeling. Versus in a Land Cruiser, yeah, some service costs are higher, but at least this thing gets me everywhere reliably, and at least I have that comfort that I know that I'm okay on the road. If I hit a pothole, something happens, most cases the car is going to be okay, because it's just tough as nails. And that's what we appreciate, and that's, I think, why the value proposition for buying a Land Cruiser in Nairobi is almost an immediate yes, you know, a resounding yes, because these are the vehicles that work here, guys. Honestly, these are the vehicles that work here. I know people from UK, US, they're like, why are you driving this gas guzzler every day, Masai Gaines? Well, you know, what's up with you guys? And I know in the UK, with much smaller roads and stuff, you guys are totally different. You know, your whole life is about hatchbacks. Mercedes A-Classes are popular there. I can tell you, Mercedes A-Classes or those hatchback BMWs, they don't work here because they're low to the ground. Like even right now, I'm just going through holes right in the middle of the city, giant holes, and off-roading literally in the middle of Westlands roundabout, the middle of the city, guys. So it's like, it's serious. Just dropped into another hole. The whole car just entered, and we are in a Land Cruiser. So think about driving an IST or an Allion and going through these kind of holes. It's certainly not going to be fun, guys. Some of the tiny Ubers still get through, but guys, you tell me, does this look friendly to you for your beautiful E-Class or C-Class or whatever? Does this look extra friendly to you? There is literally full flow here, guys, full flow. And I don't really know if it gets deeper. Sometimes they can be really big holes because there's a lot of flow here. So you really have to be careful. But in a saloon car, this is certainly not possible. I mean, you can see a log literally floating in the water, guys. Now there we go, big holes,